Hi everyone, Kris here. Before we start the show, I wanted to drop a content warning. Our usual conversation at the top of the episode got a bit heavier than usual and could be upsetting for some listeners. We decided to leave this conversation in because this show has always been at least partly about our lives and the things that happen to us. This week just happened to be a particularly difficult one. Things get back to normal around the 23-minute mark if you want to skip ahead. Thank you for understanding. Now on with the show.
Warning, the Stone Age Gamer includes a lot of bad language. Cover your mother ears.
Good evening and welcome to the Stone Age Gamer Podcast. I'm Kris Randazzo and joining me tonight is incessant beeping noise, Dan Ryan.
Just constant beeping. Constant.
It's time for the latest and greatest in the Alphabet Super Series. This month's letter was F, and we played the rotoscoped classic Flashback. What did we think? Pick up that weird cube thing because the Stone Age Gamer Podcast starts now. Hi everyone, this is episode 476. It is the week of August 18th, 2023. Some of you, as this episode is going live, might even be at our store for our Sweet 16 party.
That's right.
No,
that's very exciting.
It would be the day after, because that's a Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're recording Saturday night. Yeah, we ought to figure that shit out, huh?
Probably. Whatever.
Fuck. Yeah, whatever. It'll all fall into place. It's all going to be okay.
It's all good.
Okay. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, man, Kris, I got to tell you, this has been just about the hardest week. I don't know if it's been the hardest week of my life. Legit, but it is up there if it's not the hard. So okay. So
we talking puppers now?
So yeah, a couple things. Last Saturday, I put a picture in our Discord of a bunch of puppies that were just dropped at my wife's vet office. Right? Just, here you go. Here's a bunch of dogs. I don't want them. You take them. All right, cool. Do I have room for all of these puppies? No, I do not. But that's what we do. So I'm going to take them. I'm going to try and figure it out. And we go to pick the puppies up, and it's like, all right, well, the first thing we got to do is we got to test them for parvo. All right. Do you know what parvo is? Parvo?
No.
Okay.
You're making this up.
So parvo.
You can't fool me.
Parvo is basically the worst thing that a puppy can get. It's a virus. So if parvo is untreated, it is a 91% fatality rate in puppies. Yeah.
What is it?
It's a virus that attacks partially their immune system. It attacks their stomach. It attacks their intestines. It makes it so that any food or nutrients that they get, they can't keep down because they either throw it up or they have bloody diarrhea most of the time. And if you get to the bloody diarrhea stage, that usually means that you haven't gotten it in time. Now, the treatment for parvo, in order to successfully rehabilitate a parvo dog, usually goes thousands of dollars because they are checked into a hospital, which is not the type of vet that my wife works at. They are not a 24-hour vet, right? So you need a 24-hour vet where the dog is hooked up to fluids and monitors and is constantly monitored and checked, and any amount of fluids or nutrients that are lost through either vomiting or diarrhea are replaced immediately by the vet tech on staff. And it is a constant 24-hour monitoring for about 5 to 6 days. Right?
Wow.
Yeah. Like I said, untreated parvo And when I say untreated, I mean like the dog threw up and had bloody diarrhea on Monday. We didn't start the treatment till Tuesday. That's how quick it goes, right? Untreated parvo puppies, you have a 91% fatality rate. With treated parvo puppies, you have about a 45% mortality rate. So, like, you're still going to lose puppies. We got 7 puppies on Saturday. We have 1 currently at my aunt's vet hospital because the other 6 either passed away in their sleep or died in either my arms or my kids' arms this week.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Fucking horrendous, dude. Like, just as bad as it could be. And, like, this isn't the kind of thing where, like, the dog goes peacefully in its sleep. You know what I mean? Like, they're in pain. It sucks. They hurt, and you can see the hurt in their eyes. And it's, like, just absolutely the worst part of rescue is this kind of shit. And, you know, we tested one dog, because, you know, parvo tests are also, you know, they also cost money. And, like, none of this is to say, like, please don't misunderstand me that I'm saying that vets are trying to, like, rip people off. Like, they gotta charge money, they gotta pay bills, they gotta make us, like, all of that stuff. This is not, like, crazy treatment for the sake of, like, these fuckers just want money. It just is what it is. You know what I mean? Right. And it really sucked throughout the week as we continued, like, and it was like 1 or 2 dogs a day up until yesterday when we had 1 dog left, and it was like, well, the rescue has enough money for 1. You know what I mean? Like, because that's where we were. Last Saturday, we did not have enough money to put 7 puppies into this kind of treatment. Like, it wasn't there. You know, and could we have done it and, like, raised our vet bill, where we currently have, you know, where we're currently running a pretty hefty deficit? Could we have raised that by another $10,000? Absolutely. Dr. Steve would have been like, yeah, let's save these dogs' lives. You'll get it back to me when you get it back to me. But then that would further impact, you know, further on. Basically what I'm saying is send me money if you can. That's really what it comes down to. SaveAtHomeRescue.org. You know, tell your friends, send money. Because that was kind of the reality of where we were this week. Of we couldn't save all of these dogs because we simply couldn't afford it, and they whittled themselves down to the last one. And he looks like he's going to make it, right? Like, I got a report back today that he's eating and he's up and he's, like, chewing out the fucking IV. So they had to put a cone on him, which is a good sign, you know? Like, he's being a pain in the ass because he's a puppy and he's starting to act like a puppy again. But just an absolutely brutal part of the week. On top of which, we also went down to, like, what kind of, it was just kind of a sad, it was happy and sad at the same time. We went down to visit my great aunt Alice for a birthday party, and we decided that the birthday dinner that Tiff was going to make, she was going to make a Thanksgiving dinner. And the reason that she was going to make a Thanksgiving dinner is because we're not sure that we're going to get another Thanksgiving with Aunt Alice. So it was like, we know we can do it this weekend. Let's go ahead and do that now. So, you know, we've got 7, so that Saturday we get these 7 puppies, and the house is just, it doesn't smell good when puppies are going through parvo, right? So, like, that's in one part of the house. And then I walk into the other part of the house, and Tiff is making a lovely Thanksgiving dinner. It's like, this is a fucking weird contradiction, because, you know, like, you've got this disgusting thing and then this awesome thing happening over here. But this awesome thing is happening for a super sad reason. But we went down, and it was lovely, and all of that was great. And my great aunt Alice is a wonderful person, and I'm happy for any time that I get to spend with her. But then when we got home on Sunday, started like getting the dogs out and like, all right, everybody has to go outside and do all that. And Bonnie has been, over the last couple of weeks, not going out with all of the other dogs, which I totally get. They're fucking crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I know your sister-in-law has 2 Bernese Mountain Dogs. Mm-hmm. I have 1 young Bernese Mountain Dog, and he's fucking nuts. And Dozer is just the most perfectly named dog that there ever has been, because he is just a fucking bulldozer. Oh, and so it's just fucking crazy. So, like, you know, come on, Bonnie, come on, boo-boo, let's go outside. You know, and she fucking looks at me like, no, I'm not right now. Okay, that's fair. So I let all the dogs out, and then, you know, let them back in, put them to bed, and I go back up to get Bonnie, and it's like, all right, Bonnie, like, come on. And she's having a really, really hard time getting up. Like, her paws keep slipping out from under her. And she's been getting older, you know, like, rapidly, because she's 11, and Bernese Mountain Dogs are supposed to live, the average is 6 to 8 years. She was 11, right? She's 11 years old. But I was like, all right, maybe it's just her paw pads or whatever. You know, she, like, because the hair grows out underneath of the paw pads.
Oh, yeah.
We have hardwood floors. All right, let me clean that up for her. Let me cut, you know, around the paw pads or whatever. Maybe she just can't get traction. Like, she's old. One, she's 125 pounds or however much she weighs, and now she's fucking slipping everywhere. What a dick I am, right, for not doing this for her. So I do that, and she gets up, goes outside. Then Monday, as I'm sitting there, and I am holding a puppy that is dying in my arms. I look over and I'm like, you know, I see Bonnie and she's trying to get up and she can't. Her back legs just aren't moving. And I'm like, oh, fuck. All right. Let me deal with this puppy here for a second, go over and try to help Bonnie. And from Monday night, or Monday afternoon more, it was very, very obvious that her time was up, because she just couldn't get up. She couldn't move. Like, she's dragging herself around the house. And I was like, fuck, man. All right, so, you know, talk to Tiff, talk to the kids. This is the decision that we have to make. We're not, like, we could have taken her to the vet and gotten her on, you know, fucking crazy pain medication and, like, all of this crazy stuff to prolong her life for, you know, another couple of months. Meanwhile, the entire time with her back legs not working, so her not being able to go outside, not being able to go to the bathroom, having to wear a diaper, like, just this completely undignified end. So we made the decision that Wednesday was going to be the day. So one of the girls that works with Tiff came over and they put her to sleep at the house. And, like, it just fucking sucked, man. Like, it was such a rough fucking week. Like, having to deal with
that's a lot, dude. That is a lot. I'm so sorry.
This week. Like, and I've tried to, like, I haven't, like, posted anything about it because I'm still, like, a fucking wreck. It's so silly to me. Like, and maybe silly's the wrong word, but it's like a fucking grown-ass man laying on my floor, just fucking sobbing. Just laying next to this dog, sobbing my eyes out like a baby. And it was
I'd be worried if you weren't. I mean, for fuck's sake, you're talking about puppies. Like, I mean, that's like the comedic thing of, like, well, that's something that nobody can avoid. Like, well, yeah.
Yeah. Like, just, oh my God. So, fucking doing all that, and the girls are going just, I mean, they're losing their shit, as you can imagine. We gave her, I went and bought her a thing of peanut butter cups. Because, dogs can't have chocolate. Or at least they're not supposed to. But at that point, it wasn't going to hurt anything. So, gave her the peanut butter cups, and that was that.
When you do it's like when you do heroin, like, right? It's like, well,
yeah,
I'm going to die. Bust out the heroin.
Might as well at this point. So it's just like, fuck, man. We're losing puppies, and we had, there was just no way around it. Like, Bonnie's time, it was up, and we were not going to let her go through this, like I said, just this undignified end to her life, because who the fuck deserves that? You know what I mean? Certainly not her. Mm-hmm. So it's like, all right, so we put Bonnie down, and that's super emotional, and just going through all of that, and that's like, well, fuck. And now we're still losing puppies, though, at the same time. It's like, fucking, god damn it, stop already. So yeah, that's been my week.
Well, I feel like an asshole for what I was complaining about beforehand.
It's
been a hard week for me, but I wasn't holding dying puppies. Jesus Christ. You can't write that shit.
No. Oh my god. It's fucking awful, man. And that, it's a weird thing to start the podcast that way, I suppose. We put a spoiler warning, really sad shit about to come up. But that's just, that's kind of the reality of what my life happens to be right now. Doing this rescue shit, and having these dogs, and even Bonnie was a rescue. When we took her, we thought, all right, we're getting this already 8-year-old Bernese mountain dog. She's probably got, I don't know, 6 months left, and that was 3.5 years ago, and she's just the best fucking dog, man. She was the one who was always down here with me when I was working from home during the pandemic. I had a cushion out here for her, and it's super weird. The house looks, when you're used to having a 120-pound dog in the living room most of the day, right? Either the kitchen or the living room. It's very, very odd when that 120-pound animal is no longer there. And I keep, looking around, expecting to see her, and being surprised consistently that her big ass isn't there anymore. And that's why we called her Bonnie. She was our wee Bonnie lass with a big giant ass. Oh man, it's just, fuck. It's only Friday. There's still 2 more days left in this week. Like I said, I don't know if this has been the hardest week I've ever had, but I think it has been. I didn't get to play a lot of video games this week. I was kind of doing some other shit most of the time. Yeah.
I mean,
it's a fucking bummer, man. I know.
That's a gigantic bummer. I'm so sorry. You have my deepest sympathies. I cannot imagine going through that, man.
Thank you.
That's something else.
And it's one thing for me and Tiff to go through it, because
your kids, I can't imagine watching the girls go through that.
It's hard, man. It's hard. Waking up to a text, because Katie has been a real trooper through it. So is Penn too. They both incredibly helpful and all of those things. But Katie volunteered a couple of nights because I don't know if she just wanted to stay up and eat snacks, and this was the way for her to be able to do it, which is not that's not me being shitty at her. That's a thing she does. She's like, oh, I want to sleep on the couch tonight. Motherfucker, you want to stay up and eat Oreos. Fuck you. Don't try and pull some shit. I know you, because I used to try and pull the same shit too.
With good reason. Oreos are delicious.
Oreos are fucking great. But she volunteered to stay up with the puppies, and we told her, we were like, Katie, I need you to understand, there's a very, very good chance that not all of these puppies are going to make it through the night. I know, I can handle it. And she can, and she did. But
that's
like,
still not easy to watch.
It sucks. It sucks, like, waking up to a text from her of, we bought him, we didn't name him. I wanted to name him after the Wu-Tang Clan. That was my goal. If they made it. It was like, there's RZA and Jizza and Raekwon the Chef and Old Dirty Bastard. Whatever. But we bought them collars, right? Just little colored collars. And that's just, green and Mr. Green, Miss Pink, like whatever. Just, so waking up to a text of, we lost green last night, or we lost yellow. Like, fuck, man. It really sucks. But they're stronger for it, I think. But still, like, kids, man, you don't want to see them hurting, No.
You
want to see them. And, like, that's why, as I'm laying on the floor with Bonnie, the morning of, knowing that, like, all right, this is happening in a couple hours, right? And she's just kind of laying here. So, like, me laying there on the floor with Bonnie, and as the kids are coming down, like, trying to, like, nope, everything's cool, I'm fine, don't want the kids to see you crying, like, trying to, like, toughen it up real quick, like, and they know, like, yeah, it's just, it's a hell of a way to start a podcast. I apologize. It's just that's where
okay.
That's where I've been all week. Like, I haven't been, like, I saw, like, one thing on the Discord, I think, and haven't, like, responded to anything else. Like, I know I'm not usually super active on the Discord and whatever, but I'm usually a little bit more active than I have been this week. But I've just been fucking absent from everything, man. Crazy.
Have a few things going on.
Just a few.
Yeah, just a few. Nobody's gonna fault you for any of that.
Yeah. So,
shit.
Anyway, how you doing? How you been?
I'm doing all right. I've been busy. It's been an exciting time. Let's focus on my trivial bullshit for a little bit. Huh? Let's get away from quite so much heavy stuff, because I don't have a lot of heavy stuff going on. It's just a lot of stuff going on. That's good. It is good. It's I still have to take care of this whole stupid thing with I need to call a plumber about that thing with the water coming down from my ceiling, and I still haven't done that yet, because it's not life or death. Obviously, it needs to be taken care of sooner than later. Sure. But it's like,
but you're no fun and won't just cut random holes into your wall.
Well, I've learned that lesson. All that's going to do is cause more problems, and that's a lesson that I have learned through life experience. I know my limits, sir.
Yeah,
and they are that. Let's see.
They are randomly cutting holes in the wall. This is not where I'm at.
They definitely that definitely falls into the bad idea category in my
such
life.
A good idea.
Personally. Maybe for you, definitely not for me. But I've been putting that off because we've been dealing with the whole, like, getting the car thing and making sure that's, like, working out, and it's all working out just fine. It's been great. We have the title for the car now. Karen's got stickers on it, and it's all good.
Stickers,
we're fine. We're all fine here.
Get off my ass.
Yeah,
honk. She got honk if you love lesbians.
Yeah.
Jersey versus everyone. Those are the stickers I have.
Oh, she got some Doctor Who thing, and she got she's a huge Captain America movie fan. She got one to put on her passenger side back window that says "On your left."
Oh, that's fun. I like that.
That's good. It's good. Good. I like that.
What type of car is it again?
It is a Jeep Cherokee.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. It was one of the cars that she was, looking at on her own, like back when she was looking to get a car, back when
Yeah.
we thought, back
Cherokees
when we
are cool too.
we thought that was something we could afford. Those were the days.
I keep looking and I keep seeing them, and I didn't like them at first, but the more I see the new Broncos, like, fuck, man, I kind of want one of those. I didn't think I was going to, but I really do.
I think I'm going to be driving a Honda Odyssey for the rest of my life.
That's fine, though.
That
thing's a fucking tank.
I love that minivan. I love everything about it. I can't wait to get a newer version in a couple of years when I can afford it. It's just
that's awesome.
It's just I just love minivans.
It's a dad van. Anyway, yeah.
It's been so busy this summer. I'm not thrilled with how much working I've been doing this summer, but it's all working towards stuff. It's working towards getting us to a position where we can afford to have a second car, which has improved Karen's life significantly. Trying to get all of our massive debts figured out so that we can afford to do things with the kids, and we've got plans coming up to we're going to go to Ocean City with some friends, and they're not crazy things, but just some ways to keep make this the summer special for the kids. And just work's been really busy. Like this whole Zelda video thing was a massive undertaking, which is finally done. And I tell you, I'm really weirded out by this. The full one that was 2 hours and 43 minutes is performing better than the last several chapters that I put up.
That's weird.
I never in a bajillion years would have guessed it. It is reaching more people. Like, it's so weird to me. I had somebody reach out to me on Twitter. I think I posted it in the Discord, and it just freaked me the fuck out. I got a notification on my personal Twitter. Somebody wrote, bookmarked with the intent to watch. Not like you want more work, but like editing into 6 to 8 episodes would have been cool if the pacing worked.
Yeah, that would have been cool. That would have been a great idea.
I mean, obviously
That's weird,
nothing against this person, because clearly he doesn't know. But like, how does he not know? How does the YouTube algorithm so fucked that I've been doing this for months, one episode at a time, and this person has just now discovered the one that's all of them together, that's like movie length? Like, what?
That's super weird.
I'm confused. I'm happy. I'm glad it's getting more traction.
No, that's awesome.
I worked really hard on it, but it's so fucking strange.
I don't even know if YouTube fully understands their algorithm anymore. Like, and not saying that in like like not being like shitty about it or anything. I would have to imagine, not knowing at all what the fuck I'm talking about, but I would have to imagine that at some point it just gets too massive to actually be able to manage, and it just kind of does what it does.
It just kind of takes on a life of its own, and that's the end of that.
Like I would just have to imagine with the what can only be just an absurd amount of content available within YouTube. It just has to be a thing that nobody fully understands what it's doing anymore, but it's still doing it, so we're just leaving it alone.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense to me.
There are channels that have millions of subscribers that none of us that listen to this podcast have ever heard of. Ever.
Yeah.
We have no idea. We could trip over them in the street and be like, that was a famous YouTuber. Like, no, that's not a thing we would know. But they have like millions and millions of subscribers, billions of views, and all of that sounds like something. I don't know what it is, though. It's just a weird fucking uncharted territory. It's very strange.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
but,
I know. I don't get it.
It is what it is.
I want it. I would love I would love to be one of those people. Like, Stone Age Gamer Podcast has 6 million subscribers. Do we? That's fucking amazing. That's great.
That would be something. I wouldn't kick 6 million subscribers out of bed. I mean, no. I would, because wouldn't fit in my bed. You know
It just you're just begging for syphilis at that point, at the very least. At the very least, some sort of scabby something or other. Anyway.
So yeah, that's a thing. Let's see what else has been going on. I played a little bit of Tears of the Kingdom, just a little bit, because John wanted to see some of it, so I played for like an hour or two one night. It was fun. I'm still loving it. I wish I could. I think about playing it all the time. That was the other
thinking
thing.
about it right now.
Thinking about it right now. That was the other thing that was busying up my week, is I had a whole bunch of Nintendo Force articles to write, like my Double Dragon review and the Tears of the Kingdom second opinion and the gimmick review, and I had a lot of stuff in this magazine that I was just behind on because everything's been so busy. So I was banging all that out this week because I wanted that done before I left for Ohio. I did note that We Love Katamari reroll went on sale at Best Buy for like $20, I think.
That's not bad.
You know what? It's time. Let's do it. So I bought that and the first Katamari, which was down on clearance for like $15, because I wanted to have that one physical too, just because, why not? So I got both of those in the mail, and I finally played a little We Love Katamari, which I haven't touched since I came out on PS2, and I didn't really care for it. And it's clicking with me better this time. I mean, obviously I haven't put much into it at all, but it is definitely clicking with me more. I'm starting to understand why I think people think this one is the superior game, because it's doing some interesting stuff. Like, I played a level that was, it's not timed in the way usual Katamari levels are. It's like, this is how many items there are in this kid's bedroom. Right. Roll them all up as fast as you can. There is no time limit. And it's like, okay, I think I get it. And I remember there being some things like this, and I didn't really appreciate that much at the time. And I don't think anything's ever going to replace the first one. Like, the music's not as good, because it couldn't possibly be. And
how could it be? Yeah.
That first one was such a lightning in a bottle situation. Like, that first one was pure magic, and there's nothing that'll ever beat it, no matter how technically better it is, because it wasn't that one perfect thing. Which is kind of how I feel about We Love Katamari, but it's growing on me a lot more. It is quite a good game, so hooray for that. And that's kind of all I've played besides like work related stuff. I did a video for the Jaguar Game Drive.
Okay.
So I got that up and running. Now, I've had the game drive since like we very first started carrying it. They sent me one to like make a video on, but then stock was super limited. So like, you know what? Never mind. Just hang on to it. Once things are leveled out, we'll make a video. And then I just kind of forgot to do it. And we're like, oh shit, I never made the Jaguar Game Drive video. We should probably do that because we have them regularly in stock now. So I made the video and I sent it in. And then Ryan was like, oh, you still have the old 3D printed shell. Like, these are injected molded now. I was like, shit. So, like, I made this whole video, and like most of it is unusable because I'm using an old version of it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get the new version when we go out there to the store, and then just reshoot the parts where you see the because the internals are the same. It's just the actual shell itself is totally different. So I'll do the unboxing part and re-edit that. But so instead, the only other product that they had sent me that we have in stock are the HD Retrovision cables, which I've never messed with. We just started carrying them relatively recently. Like, we didn't have them for the longest time, and we finally struck a deal with the guys who make them, and holy shit, I was not prepared for how nice these things are. Like, not by a long shot, because I've used component cables on my CRT before, and it looks beautiful, but the first thing I did was the Genesis one. I don't know why I picked the Genesis one to start with. It's just that was on top, and I was like, Genesis is easy, so let's do that. I could not believe my fucking eyes. The difference between composite cables on my Genesis 2 to component cables on my Genesis 1 was unbelievable. I did the whole video. It's going up on Monday. I don't know how well you can't see it quite as well because it's off-screen footage, because I didn't want to do direct feed, because like direct feed video gives you theoretically how much better it is, right? If I'm going to make a video on it, I want to give what does it actually look like on your television? Not like, what does it look like on something that is simulating your television? What does it look like to look at a CRT and see this thing in motion? And I got some decent enough shots of it, picking it up with my phone camera, pointing at a CRT. But, like, I swear, seeing it on the video really doesn't do it justice. I just put in Sonic the Hedgehog. I put one, I have 2 copies of that. So I put, one in the Genesis 1, one in the Genesis 2. And I just swapped back and forth. Was like, I cannot believe my eyes. This looks insane. The difference in clarity was just blew my mind.
That's awesome.
The other ones I did, like, the Genesis 2 cable is like kind of the base one. There's a bunch of adapters for it, right? So the next one I did was PlayStation 1.
Okay.
And the next one I did was Saturn, and I plugged in Knights, and the title screen was like a similar situation. Like, holy shit, not as much, because like the Saturn itself just, it looks nicer than the Genesis, even through composite, just out of the gate. But like the title screen for Knights is all drawn, right? It's not polygons,
right?
So it was just again, it's just an enormous difference. And then in game, it was a bit more subtle. Like, it was still very noticeable, but it wasn't like the whole night and day thing like the Genesis. Super Nintendo was weird because Super Nintendo was really not very different. So I have a Super NES Junior hooked up to my TV, right? The redesigned Model 2 Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And that looks pretty good as is through composite cables. Like, it looks significantly better than the Genesis through just the standard composite cables, which I always thought was pretty interesting. And the Retrovision cables didn't really improve it that much. Like, it did... there's like a weird color bowing kind of thing. Like, I've noticed this on some CRTs, especially ones where you can see kind of like a black border around it, where like different colors will kind of stretch further across the very edge of the screen, like by like maybe a millimeter or 2, and it's kind of sort of noticeable. And component cables just kind of negate that. But overall clarity, I'd never really noticed how fuzzy Super Nintendo is just in general, through anything other than emulation. Which is a pretty interesting experience. Like, even because after I did all that, I went through my RetroTink 2X Pro to just test it on HDMI on a flat screen, and it looked exactly the same as on my CRT minus the scan lines. So I was like, this is really interesting. Like, it definitely looks better than composite, but really not as much as I would have expected, especially considering how much improved the Genesis was. And then the last thing I did...
That is weird. Like,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I have no idea what would cause that, but that is weird that it's not as much of an improvement.
It's my understanding that it has... I do think it is weird, and I think it has something to do with... I've seen some people posting on Twitter about, like, going in and trying to fix the Super Nintendo's fuzziness problem. Like, it is something inherent to that platform.
Right.
It's so far over my head that I couldn't even begin to talk about it with any level of authority. But
yeah,
it is apparently a thing with the Super Nintendo. It's not as capable of outputting it's not as capable of outputting with as much clarity as a Genesis, even though the Genesis doesn't natively output with as much clarity, if that makes any sense.
It does. That's weird.
It is weird, right? Because, like, innately, just if I'm comparing composite on my Genesis 2 to composite to my Super NES, it's a big difference. The Super NES looks way better, way sharper, but, like, through the component cables from the HD Retrovision cables, the Genesis was like, holy shit, I can't believe how sharp and amazing this looks, as opposed to the Super Nintendo, which just looks a little bit better. But the last thing I did was I tested the PlayStation 1, and I popped in Symphony of the Night, and oh my god. I don't think, because like the last couple of times I've played Symphony of the Night for the last like decade or two have been, on like the PlayStation 3 or something, just playing the original PS1 version through HDMI, and it looks nice. It does not look this nice. I don't think I've ever seen the game look this nice before, because that game was designed for a CRT,
right?
And
with all the limitations and whatever in mind.
Exactly. So seeing it with this much clarity on a CRT, I don't think I've ever done that before, because I don't think I ever had a real component option for any of my PlayStation systems on this old CRT. So, like, I've only ever done composite on it, and I didn't want to stop. I was just like, well, this should be my day. I should just sit here in front of my PlayStation 1 and beat Symphony of the Night on a CRT. And I mean, obviously I couldn't do that, but wow, that was big. It's like the polygonal stuff, you just didn't seem to read too much cleaner until, like, I'd pause it and look at the screen side by side and be like, okay, I can see the difference now. But I guess when it's in motion, just because it's, you're really just cleaning up the hideous low-res textures that are on the polygons, when you get to the 2D artwork, it's like, shit, this game is beautiful. So that was pretty cool. And I guess the other HD Retrovision cables, we have
that kind of stuff is super neat. Yeah,
it is. It's really cool to see. I kind of assumed that they were really nice, because they are well regarded as, like, the top of the line when it comes to quality on classic cables. Because we were talking a while back about the HDMI, like the HDMI cables, the level height cables and stuff. Yeah. This is a different animal. This is component. This is to be used with CRTs in the best way possible, the best RGB you can get out of it. And just I forgot how good stuff like that could look. And every now and then like, I think a couple of months ago, I plugged my old Wii in through component on that TV, and I played Punch-Out and was like, oh my god, I forgot how good this game can really look. Yeah. Just naturally, without any emulation, upscaling, or anything, just the Nintendo brand component cables going from the Wii to that component-ready CRT. Like, holy shit, that game looks good. I just kind of forgot how good that stuff could look. And that's how because I used to have the Wii hooked up to that TV, back when it was current, and that's how I would play Virtual Console games, and they just looked so good. I just kind of forgot how good they could look like that. So it was a really fun afternoon, if a bit hectic, trying to get a second video all pieced together so that I don't miss a week because of the stupid Jaguar problem. But
it is kind of interesting going back and looking at that stuff too, and trying to see, because, like, there's a difference, right, in a cleaned up, like, the best version of the original content possible versus, like, a lot of the stuff that emulators do with, like, smoothing and graphical enhancements, and all that stuff looks really cool, and all of that's really great. But, like, one of the things we did this week while Tiff and I were just kind of sitting around, like, staring off into space, is I put on a recent remaster. I don't know exactly which one it is, but a recent version of the original Wolfman, Claude Rains, the classic Universal Monsters from 1941. And it is such a stunningly sharp picture that, like, you just start to appreciate, because, like, that's what was there, you know what I mean? And then for so many years we saw it on, shitty copies, broadcast over television, shit that was compressed, and all of this stuff. And, like, yes, I know back in the day, like in the 40s, they weren't shooting on HD cameras, but they still were capturing this image, right? And finally being able to see that stuff as it was, as what the director and the actors saw even back then, it's just, I don't know, I think that stuff's really cool. There's, like, a fucking, like, 4K HDR10 box set of the Universal Monsters pictures coming out in a couple of weeks, and I don't need to spend $130 on it, but I really kind of want to, because, like, not only are they're just really well done, like, they're classic movies for a reason, not just because they're classic monster stories and all of that, but to see, I don't know, I think that kind of stuff is so cool.
Yeah, similarly, so for the movie podcast, our movie for numbers wound up being 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I had never seen before.
I can only imagine that is your least favorite movie of all time. Did you like it? I mean, spoilers.
I had a very complicated relationship with that movie.
It's a very complicated movie.
It is and it isn't. Like, there's like maybe a half an hour of actual content in that movie.
How fucking dare you? How dare you?
That's not an exaggeration. Most of the movie is really, really, really long establishing shots. It's like, all right, this spaceship is landing, and you're going to watch it do that for 2 solid minutes.
I fucking love that movie so hard.
It makes its point, and then it just sits there and, like, makes it again. And then a few more times. I found the movie infuriating, especially because there were so many things about it that I liked. Like, I went in really wanting to like this movie because it's a huge, important piece of science fiction cinema. But it as I said on the podcast, it just kept tripping over its own dick, and it was just really difficult to watch.
That's kind of Kubrick, like to a T.
And I'm not a fan. I know most people are. I have never been impressed the way that most people are about Kubrick's movies. Like, my friend Adam was a huge Clockwork Orange fan, and he showed me that movie in high school, and I was like, okay. And like other people are like, this is the best fucking thing ever. I mean, you're a huge Clockwork Orange fan. Like,
gigantic. I'm a massive Kubrick fan.
I don't get it. It just didn't hit with me. It's Full Metal Jacket was the same way. Like, it's like, okay,
it's fucking brilliant.
All right, I've seen this movie now, and I'd never really think of it again. The Doctor Strangelove, I thought was, I think Doctor Strangelove was the one of his movies that I liked the most. But like 2001,
did you ever see Spartacus? That's it. That's one of his.
No, I actually haven't seen Spartacus.
Really? It's really good. It's one of the
old
least
cartoon. Do you remember the Spartacus cartoon?
No, not
Holy
even
shit,
a little bit.
Was it I'm pretty sure there was a Spartacus cartoon. It was on Nickelodeon. It was some fucking foreign thing that they played at like 4 o'clock in the morning on Sundays. And for some reason, I was awake and I watched it, and that shit was great. I gotta look that up. I'm having flashbacks right now.
I have no idea what that is. Stanley Kubrick's Spartacus is like one of the least Kubrickian of his movies. Like, that one's pretty straightforward. But yeah, I love him.
2001, there's this underlying stuff that was really interesting. But like the whole bit with the monkeys in the beginning. Yeah. Like, okay, you made your point, I get it, but because this is so long, I'm expecting this to have some sort of relationship to the rest of the movie other than making the point about parallels. But you made the point about parallels in about 5 minutes. You could have driven that point about parallels home extremely thoroughly in 15. Instead, you spent almost an hour. And
it could use some editing. I'm not going to disagree with you,
but at the same time, and I have a lot of thoughts about the fucking screensaver that was the end of the movie. Was like, why are you doing this? You're so close. And the shit with Hal, like, all right, so I fell asleep. I couldn't do this in one sitting. I had to give up. I fell asleep and close to halfway through the movie, and then like 2 days later, I went to pick up where I left off, and then like a minute later, it went to an intermission. And I was like, you fucking asshole. If I had known there was an intermission, I would have just waited the extra 2 minutes and then said, okay, I'll pick up next time. So I'm watching the intermission, and the intermission is just a black screen, and then this noise is just coming in and getting louder and louder, and I audibly said to my TV, oh my God, shut up. And I fast forwarded. I out loud yelled at the television. That's how mad it made me. But then after it came back, it was enthralling.
The stuff with Hal
is
some of the most genuinely terrifying shit that I have ever seen.
The close-up of the light right? Like,
Oh
and
my God.
I've seen this. What's it? You've seen it spoofed in countless things.
Of
like
course.
The Simpsons was the one that comes to mind the most. But
Yeah.
like, it's so effective, even knowing all the comedy that's been derived from it.
Of course, yeah.
Like, I'm wondering,
It
like,
is-
was that guy who floated away? Was he still alive? Did he cap the thing somehow and survive? Is he going to catch him? Oh my God, he's going after him. And the part where he comes back and he's like, Hal's like, you're not going to make it in there. Like, what do you think you're doing?
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
He goes to the back door and he's trying to slip in. And I'm looking at, like, sitting up on my seat, like, is he going to do this? Is he going to fucking Star-Lord his way across this? Like, is he going to do like Spike from Cowboy Bebop? What the fuck's going on? And like, but yes, content-wise, the point that I was trying to make was, so this movie came out the same time, right around in the same year as Planet of the Apes. And like, visually speaking, it's night and fucking day. 2001, those ape costumes in the beginning were astounding, especially considering the fucking year this was.
Yeah.
But as we're watching it, and I'm watching like all the scenes on the spaceships and everything, the clarity of everything, right? Because this is all super cleaned up.
Yeah.
And it holds up, like, that shit holds up better than Star Wars. There's
For
no
sure.
part of the scenery that looks like it's made out of plastic or that looks like it was fudged because who's ever going to see it? None of that looked like that. I mean, there's really interesting, like, their views into the future were so close, right? Like, there are scenes where he was watching things on screens that were in widescreen. Who the fuck thought about that back then? That was
Kubrick.
crazy. And of course, other screens were all like squares and shit, but it was like a couple of scenes were like, no, widescreen. And, you know, the fact that he was, I think we brought up on the show that he was basically doing a Zoom call. Like, of course, he went into a booth to do it, but it was like, it was a really, really interesting look at the future. Oh my goodness. So my kids are having a sleepover tonight in John's room. For some reason they decided Ellie wants to sleep in John's room tonight and have a sleepover. They were getting along astoundingly well, and Karen just sent me a picture of the two of them sound asleep, her on the floor, him in his bed. It is the most precious thing. Her and her Barbie dolls and Princess Peach dolls and in her unicorn sleeping bag on John's floor, both of them dead asleep. I can't fucking believe it. What a weird day today was. Anyway, the clarity in 2001 I thought was just, it was astounding. A horribly frustrating movie, but yeah, clarity is interesting. Anyway,
I think it's brilliant. I fucking love that movie.
It is brilliant, and I hate it.
I get it. I get why people don't. Like, I genuinely understand why people are like, yeah, no, that's not for me.
I can't know it because it is so, it's right the fuck there. Somebody just needed to take Kubrick and be like, somebody needed to rein him in just a little. Somebody needed to be like, you did it. You accomplished what you needed to do. Stop.
Yeah.
Because like that huge bit at the end, where like, I mean, also the visual effects are just insane. Like, considering when it was, the whole thing about the rotating sets to make it look like that, it's just unbelievable. But you get that
unreal,
that stupid fucking screensaver at the end that goes on for 11 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. It's 11 solid minutes. I looked it up while we were doing the podcast last night, and I'm like, I understand what you're doing, but you did it, and it stopped being impressive. Right? It's like I'm trying to put myself in the mindset of somebody in 1968 of like, they've never seen anything quite like this before. And some of those effects were really cool, right? So the first thing where like the thing splits and the like computery things are flying toward the camera.
Yeah.
That's all neat. And then you get like there's the quick shots of his head like being torturous and confused, like all really interesting stuff. But then it devolves into this like, here's a bunch of colors flying on the screen. And then here is just some landscapes, but we put a filter over it. And he just keeps doing that over and over again. I'm like, fuck, you were right there. You made the point. If you could just move forward, then this would be riveting. But it didn't. It just kept doing it over and over again. And like, I knew the eyeball thing where the eye close-up was going to blink and change colors was coming. because of the fucking Simpsons, right? Because I've seen that a bajillion times, and I couldn't wait. I was like waiting for that to happen, and like, man, because that's the end of it right there. When the eye blinks and goes to different colors, and then eventually goes back to non-colored, and that's where he wakes up and gets older and all that stuff like that. But everything in between that was just this huge, literal waste of film. And it was so annoying to me. It's like, you have this and you're doing this. Just edit. Just hold back a tiny bit, because the lack of economy of filmmaking hurts it so bad, because all it's doing is dragging itself out. It's dragging its feet. And like, there is a certain point to be made of that in like the mundane nature of like, so we're showing all these things that seem futuristic, but we're presenting them in a way that's mundane, because to these people, this is your everyday stuff that you have to deal with. I get it. You made that point an hour ago. Please move on. It's just such a frustrating movie. But I did this last night. I'm repeating myself from last night talking to Paul and Sean.
I'm just so curious, like, just knowing you as I do, I'm just so curious. I'm going to listen to that episode.
It was fascinating to me to also do the episode, because I went into it, you know, Sean loves this movie. Paul found it frustrating. I found it more frustrating. But we talked about it, and we kept landing on these things that we liked so much about it. And that's what made it such a fascinating and even more infuriating in retrospect, because like, the more I think about it, the more I should have liked it. It just kept getting in its own way, and it was like, it just made me so goddamn mad.
I do have similar I love and am endlessly frustrated by that movie, and have been since I very first saw it. When I was like 14 or 15 and was like, I'm gonna watch all of Kubrick's movies now, because I've seen A Clockwork Orange and I've seen The Shining, so now I need to see the rest of the catalog. And I sasaw this and I was like, what the fuck is happening to me? I don't understand what's going on, but I love it. Anyway,
I've seen The Shining too. That was an experience.
The
Similar experience, so not quite as infuriating. Good. Shining was very good. It was again, did a couple of those things where it went just a little bit too far for my taste, but it was like, that was good stuff. But have you seen 2010?
No,
I haven't either. I'm really curious what that's like, because it's the same writer except not Kubrick,
right?
And it was like 84 or something, so it was a long time later. It's got to be a very different kind of movie. But it's a continuation. You know, it tells what happened to Hal and Dave after 2001. And I have vague memories of it, because we had that record, the little kid's storybook version of 2010. Yeah. So I had that record as a kid. So somewhere in my head, there's like some knowledge of what that was. But, I looked it up after watching 2001. It's like, is that 2010 movie actually related to this? Like the Space Baby and shit? And like, it is. And like, oh shit, John Lithgow and Helen Mirren are in this? What? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like something I probably should like. I love Helen Mirren. Like, I have a hall pass for Helen Mirren. Even still, I don't give a fuck how old she is. I don't care. It's fine. Like, yeah, man. Anyway,
the only other thing of note that happened to me this week was our website finally got new blog software. And let me tell you, I love writing Stone Age Gamers blog. I like posting our videos and stuff on it. I like my job. But the blog software that was built into our website was horse shit. It was the most infuriating piece of garbage imaginable to work with. You know, when you write, say you're writing a blog, and or let's say you're using a Google spreadsheet or even Microsoft Word, any word processing system. When you're writing and you scroll down beyond where the screen is, your toolbar stays at the top of the screen. So let's say you need to italicize something that's 1,000 words into something you're writing, you can just press that button, or, Command I, obviously, but I'm just using that as an option.
Yeah.
You need to do something. You need to change the formatting or something. Your toolbar stays there. Our blog software doesn't do that. So everything I have to do with the blog past the initial page, I have to scroll all the way back up to the top to do it. So if I say, want to add an image to something at the bottom of the page, but that image needs to be centered, I need to place the image down at the bottom, scroll all the way back up to the top to center it, then scroll back down to continue doing whatever the fuck I was doing. Most of the time, if you press undo, Command Z, it just deletes everything you ever did.
Because why not?
And not like in a way that you can then shift Command Z to make it come back. It's just gone. Just no coming back. There's no going backwards. There's no nothing. It's just fucking gone. That's horrible.
That's annoying. That's super fucking annoying.
It's just these are just it's two examples of the many things that would break my heart about this program. Happen. And nothing ever looked good on it. Like it looked acceptable, but none of the blogs actually looked good on that software. So finally, Ryan found a plugin for our site that was new blog software, and he was like, "Well, let's give it a try. Do you think we should try it?" I'm like, "Oh my god, yes!
Oh god, please!
It can't possibly be worse than what we have going right now." And this program is great. It's called Drop-in Blog, and it's I go to this instead of just doing it directly through Stone Age Gamer's backend. Giggity.
Yeah, I was going there, but it's all right.
So this one is it scrolls the way you want it to. Like, oh, I wrote a bunch of stuff, and all my toolbar is at the top of the screen no matter what I do. Isn't that lovely? Adding images is a little bit of a pain. I can't just drag and drop, but I'm still kind of learning the ins and outs of it. It seems like once I get the hang of it, I'll be able to do them the way I want to. But it also it creates a little border around the images that looks really nice when you post the actual thing. I can schedule posts now, because you couldn't schedule posts on the old one. It was either they were published or they weren't.
Why would you be able to?
Why would you be? It seems like such a... Geekade has been able to schedule posts for a fucking decade now.
Yeah,
fucking
right?
Geekade. And I just couldn't schedule posts on this shitty software. Oh my god, now we can easily add categories and authors and featured images, and it also has SEO ratings built in, so it helps with discoverability of all this stuff, which is kind of things that I've always sort of struggled with, because they go against my nature of the way that I write things. But this makes it really easy to figure out, what do you need to change to make this more searchable, to make it show up in more searches naturally within Google's algorithms or whatever. And it's just really great to have in there. Plus, adding products is really easy, because we are a business, so they pay me to write the blog, because the blog keeps people interested in the website. And theoretically, if we put the right ads in the blog, if I'm writing say about Super Nintendo games, and then I put an ad for a Super Nintendo accessory, there's a chance somebody might click on that and buy said product. But we've always been extremely limited with that, because the ads had Ryan, my boss, had to actually make the ads specifically for the blog, which takes time, and he's a busy guy. So I'm super limited on what products I could actually advertise in the blogs. But now I can just put a legit listing straight into the blog for whatever product I want. So if I'm writing about NES games and we just got a cool new NES controller in, I can just throw that right in the middle of it and be like, ta-da, there, it's done. It's not intrusive, and it's serving a purpose, and it's it's advertising something I want to sell. Not necessarily something that's here's the thing that we have to advertise, so
here's something tangentially related to this bullshit.
Here is something that I actually think is a cool idea.
Yeah.
You should buy this, and I could do that. I could advertise a fucking plush in the middle of it if I wanted to.
Why not?
Which I'm probably going to start doing, because that's fun. So the whole thing, it's making me happy, but so we imported everything from the previous blog into it, and that's a process, right? All the old formatting doesn't translate 100% well to the new system. So like it's, how do I go back through the last several years of blogs and like which ones do I pick to be like, all right, which ones do I think I can actually get are still valid, and what's worth my time to put the work into to make this up to snuff, to get all the SEO stuff figured out and make them look properly. Like we did this with Geekade a few years ago, where it's like we imported all the stuff, but like half the pictures aren't right. Like it's a whole process, but it's a good thing. It's very exciting, but it's time consuming. And between us carrying the X Station, which launched today, that we've got that for sale, and Dex, I think we got more Virtual Boy ribbons in, but they're probably sold out already. I didn't even advertise those. Those things sell fast. Those things sell like immediately. And there was something else. I think there was some other. Oh, the Dreamcast controller thing. Retro Fighters has a wireless Dreamcast controller that's coming out finally. They announced it years ago, I think, and it's finally up for pre-order on various sites, including StoneAgeGamer.com. And it looks pretty neat. It's got, personal opinion, it's got some issues that I think are very strange.
Okay.
So, like, Retro Fighters made the Striker DC a while back. It was a wired Dreamcast controller that, the VMUs fit in. It's got a much nicer D-pad than the OEM Dreamcast controller, and it's shaped like a pretty standard controller. It was a nice controller. I liked almost everything about it. I did not like their analog stick for it. The analog stick was very, very loose, which was an intentional design choice. I don't understand why, but they were.
I do not like a loose analog stick.
It had almost no resistance, and they wrote about it in, like, there was a whole thing, and like, this is how it's supposed to feel. Like, we did this on purpose. Like, okay, I don't know why you did, but
okay, but you shouldn't have.
Okay, but you shouldn't have. So the thing with what are the coolest games on the Dreamcast? Top of your head.
Coolest games on the Dreamcast?
If you were to play a Dreamcast game. Right.
Skies of Arcadia, Jet, Grind Radio, Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
There it is.
There
were a lot of great fighting games on the Dreamcast.
I was going to say,
right?
there's a lot of really good fighting games that a loose thumbstick is just unacceptable for.
Beyond that, and here's what I don't understand. So this controller is shaped like a modern controller.
Okay.
But the Dreamcast has one analog stick. I'm going to send you a picture of this controller. I'm throwing this into the SAG chat right now. This is what the controller looks like. There is a whole bunch of real estate where a second analog stick could go. Now, there were games on the Dreamcast that used the face buttons, like first-person shooters, that used the face buttons as a right analog stick, more or less. So having those mapped to a second analog stick would be cool. There's also homebrew stuff. Like, there would be a legit reason to have a second analog stick on a Dreamcast controller, even if it was just double mapped to the four face buttons.
Sure.
That would be neat.
That is something you can do through SMEmulation.
It is indeed.
And just map it to however you want it.
But now, considering that this doesn't resemble a real Dreamcast controller, it's not shaped that way, so why only four face buttons? We have, the controller has these extra L and R buttons, right? The shoulder buttons. It's got analog triggers, and it also has digital buttons, right? So because the original Dreamcast just had the big triggers, and for some games that felt great, and some games that felt ridiculous. So they duplicated the L and Rs, as you can press either the triggers or the buttons, depending on which game you're playing, whatever feels better for you, which is great. So why only four face buttons? You've got the real estate, why not give us 6 face buttons? Since there's so many fighting games on this platform that would make great use of it. Street Fighter Alpha 3, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, Marvel vs. Capcom, fucking Plasma Sword even. Like, there's a bunch of fighting games on this system that would make sense to have 6 face buttons. I don't understand why that wasn't in consideration, especially because they've already done something similar with the shoulder buttons, making them duplicated.
It's a weird design. It's like going the extra step in one direction, but not all that's weird.
It is weird. The other thing that's kind of the VMU is the other thing, right? So the original Dreamcast controller had 2 slots in it, one for the VMU, one for the Rumble Pack thing. What the hell did they call it? What was the force feedback called? Like Tremor Pack or something. It was something not Rumble Pack. It was whatever they trademarked. It was different. So what I've learned through this controller is that making the actual memory transfer, like, because they did something similar with the N64 wireless one, the memory card plugs into the dongle instead of into the controller, because apparently there's a pretty decent percentage of a chance that your memory is just going to get corrupted when transferring through, like, the Bluetooth connection.
Okay.
Right? So I understand not wanting to make that. If you don't need to take that risk, then there's no point in taking that risk, right? There's nothing wrong with having the memory card in the controller dongle, except in the Dreamcast, because the Dreamcast is the VMU, and the screen on the VMU, there's a handful of games that actually use it, like Resident Evil, where you can see your health going on the VMU screen.
Yeah.
It's pretty freaking
Which is
cool.
awesome. Yeah, that's super cool.
Awesome. And this kind of negates that, because the VMU goes into the dongle, but the dongle doesn't stand upright. It stands flat. So, like, you can't even stand it in front of your TV, so you can still kind of see it, even though it's far away and it's a tiny screen. But it's better than not seeing it at all. The thing stands flat, which I think is very strange.
There's a lot. They made some choices.
Yeah, like I watched a video that somebody had made of an overview of this thing. It got an early one for review, and what he was doing was he bought an extension cable so he could keep the VMU dongle next to him. And I'm like, okay, but this is a wireless controller, right? Like, isn't the point to be wireless? Like, so the controller's wireless, but you still have a wire.
Shouldn't there be some dinosaurs in your dinosaur park?
There's now a big old wire sitting next to you. Like, this is kind of defeating the point. Like, then just use the old Striker DC. You don't need the wireless one anymore. So that's. I feel like being able to at least stand that up vertically would have been a partial solution. Ryan actually had a really great idea that I didn't think of. The VMU has its own, like, it does 2 different sets of information, right? It does saving memory, but it also does the screen display. So, like, wouldn't it have been cool? Because this has the Rumble built in, so that the Rumble Pack is completely unnecessary. It's got that built in the controller, which is great. But wouldn't it have been cool if there was just a screen built into the controller, a tiny, tiny screen built into the controller that just displays whatever the VMU would have displayed? Because sending that information through Bluetooth, I'm sure that's not nothing, but it seems far more doable than, the whole saving process. So you could still keep the VMU, plugged in as the dongle for your wireless receiving, but also, like, you could still get the information, the tiny amount of information that would be going on the VMU screen on some sort of tiny built-in screen on the controller. I'm not an engineer, so I don't know how realistic this is. I'm looking at this and I'm seeing...
feasible.
It seems feasible, and I'm seeing all this potential of, like, if you're going to do this, right? Because proper wireless Dreamcast controller is the kind of thing that people have been asking about for years.
Yeah.
If you're going to do this, like, do it. Really go all in on this. And I'm really not trying to knock this controller because it looks great. And if it's like the regular Striker DC, it's probably going to be a pretty nice controller. Retro Fighters makes pretty nice controllers in my experience. I'm just looking at their solutions for the Dreamcast controller being wireless, and it just seems like there are some 6 face buttons, a second analog stick, and a better VMU solution. Like, I don't think I would have gone through with this if I didn't have those solutions in place. Like, I'm sure this controller is going to sell fine because people want a wireless Dreamcast controller, and who can blame them? But
sure. How much is it?
$49.99.
Yeah, see, I feel like for an extra $10, you could have.
Yeah, honestly, I would have.
A couple more buttons in there.
Yeah. if it had more going on, I would have gladly paid more for it. Personally, that's just my personal opinion, not Stone Age Gamer's opinion. That's just my personal opinion on the Striker, the wireless Striker DC. It is an interesting concept that there's got to be technical limitations, obviously. Like, there's got to be some reason they didn't go further with it, because Retro Fighters doesn't seem to be the kind of company that, like, does half steps, really. And it does look really nice. It really does. But, like, that's the thing that's so weird. Like, the other controller we're taking pre-orders now is one of their older controllers. They're doing one final run of it, which is the Jab for NES, which has 2 analog sticks and a D-pad. So, like, very confusing. But yeah, that's been my week. It's been a week.
It really, really fucking has. Did you at least get to play some of Flashback? Like, when we start talking about this after the break, are you gonna be like, so I didn't play this game because fuck you?
I did play some of Flashback. Okay. I did not get to finish it, but I have a lot of thoughts about it.
Well, let's take a break and
talk about
and get to those fucking thoughts.
Let's do it. We're going to take ourselves a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Flashback, the various versions that I played, because I did play multiple versions.
Oh!
I did. This game is fascinating. It really is, and I have a lot to say. So, you're listening to the Stone Age Gamer podcast from Geekade.com. Stick around. Hi everyone, Kris here. Podcast listening is free, but podcast creation is not. That's why the Geekade Patreon exists. In an effort to help us pay the bills, we've got a Patreon page set up where you can gain access to our monthly podcast topic schedule, get early access to many of our shows, and more. If you'd like to help support Geekade and keep these shows running week after week, head over to the Geekade Patreon page, linked in the show notes of this very podcast. We're back. Yeah. Dan and I just talked about a whole bunch of stuff for like a half an hour.
All the stuff that we usually would have talked out if I didn't fucking bum everybody out at the beginning of the show is what we just talked about.
It was good times. And you'll never hear it.
That's right. Not even for the super secret Patreon tier that only some of you know about.
We actually have a whole campaign on Fig too, which is great. So we're doing the Alphabet Super Series. This is where once a month we choose a game on the next letter of the alphabet. This month's letter was F. It was Dan's pick, and he chose Flashback, which is a super interesting game.
Yeah, and I picked it because, like, back in the day, I was always really fat, because this game came out in what, 92 or 93?
Flashback was released in 1992 for, I'm trying to find exact release dates, and Wikipedia is not giving them to me. So let me look this up on Moby Games. I'll probably do better.
But, like, I think it was originally released, like, for the Amiga first. Like, and in 1992, this game looked nothing like anything else that was out on the market. It just moved in a way that games did not move and looked
except Out of This World. Out of This World did it first. But from the same company, actually.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying.
The rotoscoping in video games was, especially on consoles, you saw it in Karateka, you saw it in Prince of Persia, you saw it in Out of This World, but it was very few and far between. And applying it to this degree of a sci-fi setting, I was really quite something. I don't remember if Out of This World even had that as many cinematics as this one did. I don't remember.
I don't think it did. But like, I was so blown away by this game as a kid, and I did not know what the fuck to do. Like, I I got further this week. I did not. This is one of the few times where I haven't finished one of the games that we've picked for whatever thing we're doing. Because I just couldn't this week. I didn't have the mental capacity to get. I think I got about halfway through.
You got farther than I did. I didn't even start playing it until yesterday. No, yeah. I didn't make it to Earth. I made it out of. I made it just past the opening jungle section. I made it like the first inside area. Is about as far as I got.
You didn't get like through Death Tower or any of that stuff.
No. Okay. I've only really was able to put maybe half hour, 45 minutes into it. But that's because I kind of approached it in a weird way, and I was kind of fascinated by the mythology surrounding it.
Yeah,
which was really interesting. Like, so I, like you, when I was younger, I thought this game was unbelievable. I was utterly fascinated by it, but I didn't own it. And I think the rental shop, I was able to rent it once, and then it just disappeared. And then I didn't know anybody who had it, and my rental place didn't have it anymore. So I got to play it like exactly once for a couple of minutes, and that was as far as I ever got with it. And I certainly didn't wrap my head around the experience at all. Like, I don't even think I did rent it. Maybe I played it at a friend's house for a minute, because I know I only ever put a couple of minutes tops into this game. It was originally released on Amiga, and then it hit Amiga in 92, and then it hit 3DO, DOS, Genesis, and Super NES in 93. Then it went in 94 to... arrange these by date. Right. Amiga, then 93 was DOS, Super Nintendo, Genesis, and 3DO. 94 was Sega CD. CDI. Holy shit, there's a version of this for CDI. I must have it. Acorn 32-bit, FM Towns, PC 98. 95 it hit Macintosh and Jaguar. And then it was ported to other things, like 2009 was iPhone, 2017 was Dreamcast. I first played the Switch one that we bought, right? There was like a kind of a remastered version for Switch. Yeah,
it was like $1.99. It's not the HD remake that like 360 has, I think.
Correct. This is a remaster, not a remake.
Right.
The 360 one, the remake, is not thought of very well, as far as I know. People don't like that one, but this current iteration that we picked up on Switch is just a basically the best of all worlds as far as like how fast it loads. It doesn't have. I think the 361 redid the cutscenes in CG, which is like, how fucking dare you? Like, the whole point is the rotoscoping, right? It just looks cool as shit. And like having those remastered in HD is really nice looking. The Switch version has like a new soundtrack and all this other stuff, but you can turn all that off. So what I did was I put it on the modern mode so I could have the rewind feature. Mm-hmm. And the tutorials, which is really helpful, like teaching you how the different things you can do, because like, what the hell? There's a lot of things you can do that are not very obvious. So that was super helpful. But you can
not
turn
very
off...
intuitive.
No, either. Not at all. The controls in this game are troubling. But the CRT filter, which was neat, you can turn all that off. You can turn the bloom lighting off. You can put the original 8-bit Amiga sounds on, which I did, and oh my god, I love the way this sounds. I'm sure the modern stuff sounds cool. I'm sure it does. But as soon as I heard the Amiga sounds, it's like, oh my god, it's just it washed over me like this wave of love and nostalgia of like, that sound, that old PC sound is so cool. So yeah, that was pretty great. And I played around with that for like a little while and got the hang of the controls and tried to kind of make my way around the game. And then I had to stop. Then Katamari showed up in the mail, so I popped that in and played the first level of We Love Katamari. That's what happened. And then earlier today, I messed with both the Super NES and the Genesis versions, which was really interesting because like, seeing those cutscenes come out of those platforms is really something, you know?
Yeah.
And I kind of
really
wish I still had the Retrovision cable hooked up on my Genesis when I played this, because I played it with just the composite cables because I don't own that Retrovision cable, and was like, damn, I should hook this back up, but I don't feel like moving the TV to get behind it again. But that was really neat. And I also played a minute or two, actually a couple of months ago I did this. I did a review of Dreamcast homebrews, and I was able to play the Dreamcast version of Flashback, which we sell on Stone Age Gamer, which was neat. Thinking back to it, like, I couldn't really think of what the differences were, but the Switch version was far and away like the best version, just to, the way that it feels, because it's taking the best of like the Amiga versions, but like I like the colors on the Super NES version better. It's definitely more colorful, and just the abilities, the capabilities of the Super Nintendo really came through visually speaking. But the Genesis version plays much better. Like, it feels so much sharper to play with. Yeah, in a game where everything's already kind of non-responsive baseline, that kind of meant a lot as far as playability goes.
Well, and that's kind of the weird thing too, because I don't know that I would go so far as to say that it's non-responsive. It's just incredibly deliberate.
Yes, right.
Like once you get the hang of it, oh, okay, I see what I'm doing here. Like, but it's so very specific and unintuitive, like we said. But once you figure out what you can and are supposed to do, it all just it works really, really well. But the learning curve, especially without the tutorials, and like that's what frustrated me as a kid. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. It's just the learning curve is so steep on this game.
Oh my god, like the running jump, trying to figure out the timing of the running jump, because like, what is it? Jumping is up, which is never a good idea. Just, if you're thinking of making a video game where up is jump, just fucking don't. All right,
don't fucking don't unless it's a fighting game.
Yeah, unless it's a fighting game. If it's any kind of adventure game, jump's got to be a button. And like, we have the buttons on the Super Nintendo and this six button Genesis controller. I don't think the 6 button was out when this released on Genesis, but regardless, the Super Nintendo version had the buttons.
Yeah.
You didn't have to do up for jump.
If you want to jump up to a ledge like that's above you, you press up.
If you press and hold up.
Right. If you want to jump over something, you hold down A on the Switch and then press up and it'll jump over it. If you want to run and jump, you hold down A, tap the direction you want to run in, and you only have to tap it and he'll run in that direction. And then if it's a far jump, he'll do it automatically if you've just tapped it. Or if you want to manually jump while you're running, you can press up as long as you've been holding A that whole time. And it's like, what the fuck? Just let me hit A and I'll jump. And then if I push forward, he'll jump forward. It
runs so counterintuitive to like every video game that had come before it.
But it makes sense like this, from a PC standpoint.
Yeah, it's such a PC game, and it's I don't mean that as disparaging in the least.
No, certainly not.
So very much a PC game, and so interesting. Like, I don't know where this story really goes, but like in that, I'm trying to think of any other Super Nintendo game that felt so real. Like, I know it's this science fiction setting, but like you're walking around in that base and like there are just dudes sitting at a bar.
Yeah,
and, like, they're not
just hanging out.
And they look like they're just hanging out because they are. It's rotoscoped. This is positions that people were in that were just literally drawn over. It's such an interesting looking game and has this really lived in feel to it. So for as frustrating as the controls can be, none of it mattered because like the whole thing just felt so interesting, and the way the soundtrack works, where it just like comes in with a little ditty from time to time. It's just like, I figured this out, and it's not like plays a jingle. It plays like a little couple of seconds of a song, like Moving on to the next screen now.
Yeah,
okay.
I did. This is what I'm supposed to do. Got it. Excellent. Moving
the
on.
The reward system is like the sensory rewards in the game are very, very cool. Like everything feels really rewarding to pull off.
Yeah.
Which is kind of why I was really fascinated when I learned that Fade to Black for PlayStation is a sequel to this game.
Yeah, because that game is pretty hated, right?
I don't know. I remember not liking it myself. I remember it never really went for much when I worked at Funko Land. I feel like the cover for Fade to Black, for at least the US one, it doesn't say anything about
being a
flashback sequel.
Yeah.
Like Fade to Black, the European and the PC cover.
Actually, it's got really good reviews.
Fade to Black for PlayStation. The cover is like a lizard dude, and it was Electronic Arts published it, and I remember not thinking much of it because the cover was like pretty unremarkable, and the fact that it doesn't say anything about Flashback on it. And the game itself, I remember playing a little bit of it in the store and not thinking much of it, mostly because the dude's head was way too small for his body. But like, it really does kind of play like Flashback. Like, now that I've played this one and thinking back to that one, like the way you would do these little hops to jump around, but like that gameplay, but in 3D, which is really wild. I don't remember liking it all that much, but
it's got
it says it on the back. It says the sequel to Flashback, The Quest for Identity, on the back of the box, but not on the front, which is what most people saw.
7 out of 10s from IGN and GameSpot for Fade to Black.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
Good. That's pretty. There is apparently a Flashback 2.
A Flashback 2 coming out. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, at some point.
It's supposed to be this year.
Yeah.
It was announced a couple of years ago, I think, for this year. IGN just posted a new video about it like 3 days ago.
That's so wild.
Of no new footage. Like, what are the odds that this is where we're? This is where we landed, just as news of this sequel is coming out. And it looks wild.
Yeah, I will say that I am really, really excited to go back and finish this.
I am too. I wish I could say that I'm 100% positive I will, because I know me and how little time I have in my life, but I want to spend the time on this because like I'm certainly not bored by it. It was like this is a really interesting game, yeah.
And it's really fucking good. It's real, like and play like this was a game that definitely I would argue was not for kids. You know, like this was
not aimed at kids. No, I don't think so.
When this came out, I was 11 when this came out. So, that's not a little kid like technically, like I'm not talking like, this isn't a 7-year-old playing or 6-year-old playing like baby games or whatever. But this is not for kids. Like this is an adult game. In just the way that you have to be so deliberate and figure out the puzzles and the different things you have to interact with. And I'm fucking fascinated by it. I'm enjoying everything that I'm playing through. I made it through the Death Tower and made it back to Earth. Like, and I just kind of love that too. Of like, well, if you want to get a ticket to go back home, you got to go on this TV show called Death Tower. I was like, fuck yeah, I love The Running Man. This is right up my alley. I'm fucking super into this. And yeah, I'm really, really happy with this game. And really, if this is something that you're listening to the show and you're like, oh, I've heard about it. What do we think? Do we want to check it out? Like, absolutely go back and check this out. This is really fucking cool.
Hard agree. This is quite good stuff. You made a great pick.
Well, thank you. It makes me really, really excited for the sequel to this. It makes me even more excited for that Karateka thing that's coming out.
Right?
Especially, have you ever played the Karateka remake Like the 3D remake of Karateka? Because
No.
that I imagine that the Flashback 3D thing is as bad as that Karateka thing is. It's fucking garbage. It's real bad. It's real bad. I think it was released on like PlayStation 3 era. Like I think that's when it was. It's just, oh god, it's not good. Because it totally went away from the... Because this almost plays like... This is almost a point-and-click game. You know? Like,
it is,
in a way.
yeah. It's got a lot of that sensibility to it.
It's fucking weird. I think it's definitely worth your time, though.
Sorry, I just remembered that I was going to look up this Spartacus cartoon. All right. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at this Spartacus card. Is this the one? Maybe it wasn't Spartacus that I watched, 'cause this doesn't look like it. But there is totally a Spartacus cartoon.
Okay.
What was that? It was on Nickelodeon. This is going to bother me. If it wasn't Spartacus, then what was it? Oh, shit. Internet, help me out here.
Come on, Internet. Yes, the Karateka remake was in 2012 released for the 360, Windows, PS3, and iOS. It is hot shit in like a bad way, though. Hot garbage, I guess. Would be the best way to put it.
So we have a bunch of stuff from our listeners about this who chimed in on the Super Series, Discord channel. Let's see. All right. Rumblemans has a big long one. I'm not going to read everybody's whole conversations, but Rumblemans has a long one here. I'm going to read this one out. Let's see. Because I purposely didn't really read any of this stuff because I didn't want to look at it until I had played some of the game.
Yeah.
So, Rumblemans, like a month ago, my thoughts on Flashback after finishing it this morning. Flashback is a game that I have many fond memories of playing. The game has an amazing fluid animation style and a control scheme that I'll affectionately call deliberate. It feels incredibly clunky and unintuitive when you first start the game, but once you get the hang of it and you piece together a sprint into a leap, into a ledge grab, then tuck and roll while pulling out your pistol to fight some earth-destroying aliens, you will feel a great sense of satisfaction.
Yeah, it is very satisfying.
I played the Genesis version as a child, and this time I picked up the Sega CD version to see if there's any major differences. The major differences I was treated to were some 90s-ass CG cutscenes and some pretty dope music. The game isn't without its problems in the 7-level adventure. The actions you take are completely uninterruptible. Accidentally push the button to put away your gun instead of shoot? Well, that full animation is playing. Did you roll one block too far to the right into the wall? Enjoy the stutter and stand-up animation while enemies pelt you with shots. Additionally, combat can become repetitive in the later levels, full of roll, shoot, roll, shoot, roll, shoot. And if the room the enemy is in happens to have a weird layout, I'm looking at you, level 6 diary room or dairy room? No, diary. Good luck dealing with the slow animations.
Very excited.
And hit detection. Jeez. The other glaring issue is the game is that there are many, many cheap deaths. You can't see what's on the next screen at all, and sometimes just walk straight into your death. That was also just reminding me a bit of Oddworld. The way this game plays. Should you fall down that hole?
Definitely play it with a rewind feature.
Yeah, that was lovely. Many times where I died and be like, oh, okay, let's try that again.
Yeah.
Should you fall down that hole or hang and drop or throw your teleporter, take a guess and then reload your save if you were wrong. I think the game actually peaks on level 3. The Tower of Death is a really well-paced level with fun combat that doesn't overstay its welcome. The later enemies and layouts become a repetitive exercise in kill an enemy, go back and recharge your shield and save, rinse, repeat. Finally, I have to talk about the ridiculous story. All in all, it's probably better than most stories at the time, but specifically level 2 is some of the most ridiculous plot I've ever seen. You want a ticket to Earth, but it's too expensive. But you can go on a televised deadly game show to win a ticket. So far, so good. But in order to go on the show, you need proper papers. Better find a forger to make your fake papers. But he wants 1,500 credits to make them. In order to get 1,500 credits, you get a job from the job board, which apparently has much lower valid identity paper requirements than the TV death game show. Then you do your first job, get 100 credits for delivering a package. A couple jobs later, you have 90 seconds to prevent the energy core of the city from blowing up and destroying the entire city, and you earn 500 credits. So in this world, you could deliver 5 packages or save the entire city from complete destruction. After doing a few jobs, you, someone who has been getting hunted down by aliens and crooked cops and should probably keep a low profile, goes on a televised game show to get a ticket to Earth. I sure hope the aliens don't have cable.
I don't see what the problem with any of this is. All of this tracks and is perfect.
Overall, an enjoyable game that I recommend at least giving a shot to, and at least getting through level 3. I don't think I ever managed to beat it as a kid, but I did get through it on this playthrough, and while it is frustrating at times, the high points are worth a play. Very good review, Rumblemans. I hope to finish it eventually.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that was said.
Let's see. Ferg says, I've always been curious about Flashback. I played it a tiny bit at my cousin's house in 1991. I think he meant 92, but that's fine. How dare you not have the release dates memorized for Flashback, Ferg? How very dare you?
Ferg had an early release copy.
He did. But he didn't have the manual, and I got stuck pretty early. I will have to shmemulate it since I missed the Switch sale by 3 hours.
Oh, that sucks.
Oh.
Yeah, it was definitely worth the $1.99.
Oh, for sure.
Like hundo P, as the kids say.
Let's see. I'm looking for other ones of real meaning here. Duroc Pig. I vaguely remember playing the first level of the remake to Flashback and thinking this is just okay. I believe its biggest issue was that it was missing the charm that the original had. Yeah, that seems to be the general consensus of the remake. Chronogen says, so I've definitely made it further than I have in the past. Mostly because the Steam version has optional tutorial pop-ups that clue you in to some sort of weirder control quirks that you might otherwise miss, unless they're in the instructions, such as holding the action button down and running toward an edge with a higher edge to jump. So just keep holding action and it'll jump to the higher edge. I never knew that, and I don't know if I ever would have figured it out on my own. Enjoyed the first level, got to the second job as Rumblemans described above, and found myself being more annoyed than entertained at that point. It started to quickly feel like way too much backtracking. Valid concerns. And then Trashman. Well, I'm 1.5 levels in after a grueling start. This is definitely one of those where do I go mixed up with, well, shit, what do I do now games. Seriously, most of my gameplay is revolved around figuring out how to perform actions. The Genesis manual isn't helping a lot. Died at least 50 times now. Conrad B. Hart is apparently a cool dude who dies a lot and doesn't know how to jump when I want him to jump. Well said, Trashman. Yeah, this was exactly the kind of game that the Super Series should be about.
Yes,
discovering something like this, and really just glad I was able to make myself sit down and put the time into it, and am now second guessing my decision for the next game, because while it is, it's definitely not of this caliber, but I don't know what else to pick.
Oh honestly. Man, I'm so scared. So you've got the letter G.
I do.
I didn't even look at.
We're gonna play what Gontra Legacy of War.
Fuck your face with a stolen dick. Just no. I refuse to play Gontra Legacy of Gore. What? So there's like, are there a lot of games that? So like, my first thought would be like Gargoyles, like the Genesis Gargoyles game, mostly because they just released a Goliath figure. NECA did in the Genesis packaging and colorway, which is kind of cool. Not enough for me to buy a second Goliath figure, but It's pretty cool. But
that one is getting re-released pretty soon.
Right, right. And that, because that game's super weird and obtuse too. Like, there's some weird shit with that one.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you got?
So there's a big part of me that wanted to say the original Gex, because I've never understood the draw. But I don't want to run down that road again where I'm picking a game that's probably not going to be very good and just make us sad.
I gotta say, I've been doing a much better job at this than you have.
I don't have the best track record so far.
When I
thought it was going to be something worth our time.
Yeah.
So I've decided to go with Great Day at the Races for CDI. No, I'm just kidding.
Grand Theft Auto 3. We're going to go back and see what the hype is. We didn't even fucking talk about the Red Dead Redemption shit. $50. Go fuck yourself, Rockstar.
That's God all you need to say. I just don't care. I just cannot be arsed.
$50 though? 50? Are you fucking serious? That's a PS2 game. It's PS.
Fuck, was that PS2 or was it PS3?
Yes, it's PS2
Red Dead
game.
Revolver was PS2.
I thought it was PS2. Even if it's a PS3 game, it doesn't fucking matter. $50? Are you fucking serious? That's absurd. That's anyway.
All right.
Sorry, I'm stepping all over what you were going to say.
I know Guardian Heroes is a really good game.
Oh, I fucking love Guardian Heroes.
But my heart of hearts has landed on a game that I used to rent with my sister all the time, and we fucking loved this game. And I've probably beaten it dozens of times, but I have not played it in decades. And that is Guerrilla War for NES.
Guerrilla War for NES. All right.
It's an SNK game.
Yeah.
There's an arcade version that I've never played, so I think I'm probably gonna. I don't think this game's very long, so I'm probably gonna make an attempt at playing the arcade version too.
Yeah.
But this NES game, we used to rent the shit out of this and play it co-op. It was like Contra, but all top view levels.
Yeah, it's
more
like
fun than
Commando.
Contra top view levels. Yeah, like Commando kind of.
Like Commando. Yeah.
So,
I think I know this game. I think. I'm looking at screenshots now. I think this is a good game.
I'm almost positive this is a good game. I remember loving it, and I can't think of any games that I loved as a kid that I've gone back to as an adult and been like, wow, this is a piece of shit. Like, at the very least, this is going to be tolerable.
What the fuck was I thinking? Jesus Christ.
At the very least, this is going to be tolerable. Yeah, that's my pick.
All right.
It's
surprised
short.
You didn't go with like Galaxy.
I mean, I did think about Guardian Legend because I really want to force myself to finish that game someday because it's so goddamn cool. But Guerrilla War is kind of an excuse for me to get that SNK collection.
There it is.
Which, honestly, I just thought about it right now. Like, because I was just going to play it on my NES, and looking at it now, it's like, oh, this is in that SNK collection by Digital Eclipse. Maybe this is my excuse. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm really, honestly, I'm more surprised we're not playing Glover. That is what I would have bet that you would have picked.
That's an interesting, because I've never played Glover, and I've heard really weird mixed reviews on it. And
yeah, that's why I thought you would. That's like I said, if I were a betting man, that would have been. That would, if I were picking this one, we would have been playing Guacamelee. So,
right. But I wanted to stick with We said what, PlayStation 1 or older was like the limits on this.
Yeah, it's yeah.
So like, yeah, Glover
even say
fits.
That? I think we kind of we intimated.
Yeah, well, yeah, we want to stick with older games that are short and easy to beat or easy to play enough of to have a conversation about in a reasonable amount of time. Like I've never put any time into Green Dog, the beached surfer dude, but it smells to me like that's a game that is maybe just a really bad version of Flashback. Like, I feel like that game controls kind of like that. There's a bunch of really decent G games, and I was really coming down to Guardian Heroes or Guerrilla War, and I've played Guardian Heroes more recently. Like, Guerrilla War was such a huge part. We rented this game so much. I spent so much time beating this over and over again with my sister. And
sure.
I want to experience it again. So,
yeah,
there you go. Guerrilla War.
I love it. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Cool. And with that, it's time to wrap up the show at a reasonable hour. Look at that.
Is it reasonable? Oh shit! It's only 11:27.
Yeah.
Oh fuck! What else you got to talk about? We can't stop here. Son of a bitch.
No, I need to get some rest because tomorrow I'm going to be a DJ assistant.
Yep. Just leave that there. Don't explain. Just let it be.
No explanation necessary.
Let that sit.
You guys figure it out. And that is our show. Join us next week for a special trivia episode. We'll be recording live at the Stone Age Gamer store in Salem, Ohio, as part of their Sweet 16 party. It's going to be fun. I have come up with some hopefully not all that infuriating trivia questions for our audience and Dan to compete against each other in. It's gonna be fun.
We're gonna see.
We are gonna see. I'm happy with one of the rounds. It's a new kind of round I haven't done before in the past. Other ones are repeat performances, like things that you would expect, like rounds that I've done before. But this said, I've got a new one that I think we came up with on a previous episode, and I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. So I'm excited.
Is it the bleeped out words?
Yes, that's the one.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
That was harder to put together than I thought, but I'm happy with the results.
What'd you end up calling it?
I don't know that I have not come up with a name for it yet, I don't think.
I don't even remember.
Did I? Let's see.
What is I can't remember the name of what I stole it from. It's from a fucking radio bit in WIP out of Philadelphia. Their fucking sports radio. They do it. I can't remember the name of the bit.
Bleep out lines and famous game quotes. So I
All right, that's fair.
Don't have a name for it yet. I'll come up with something. I haven't come up with the music round yet either.
All right, I'm sure you will.
Yeah, and I'm not going to tell you what the other ones are because we want it to be a surprise.
All right, I'm excited.
All right, well, that is, there you go. We're on most social media platforms, and if you want to get in touch with us, we aren't very difficult to find. All it takes is a quick look at our show notes, and you'll see links to our social media accounts, as well as all manner of other fun stuff, like a link to our namesake, StoneAgeGamer.com, and more useful links than you can shake a joystick at. If you'd like to get early access to this show's episodes, as well as a bevy of other shows on the Geekade Podcast Network, check out our Patreon, also linked to in the show notes. It helps keep this show running week after week, and all our patrons are loved and appreciated. This show's theme song, Squared Roots, was written by Banjo Guy Ollie. You can learn all about his wonderful music and more by following the link to his YouTube channel, also in the show notes. And finally, as always, we'd like to thank our intrepid editor, Evan, for making this show listenable for all you folks. We'd like to thank all you folks for listening in the first place. That is it. On behalf of Dan and myself, keep playing games.